Ladies and gentlemen, you're in for a riot tonight. You're in for a riot because our guest, while he may be the newest member of EBW, maybe he was the old one, and he's going to tell us why. Because if you just watched XCW Shelbyville earlier this evening, you saw that not only is he our newest member of EBW, and boy, did Julian Void Jacobs find that out, he also made such an impact that Team EBW literally had a team clean sweep over XCW, including the shirt I'm wearing for right now. Maybe I might have to change allegiances, quote unquote. After all, it was XCW allegiance. He's going to talk about that. And plus, he made such an impact as the newest member of EBW that he got the clean sweep going because he defeated the most recent XCW World Heavyweight Champion, the man who held the title before it went back into EBW hands. And he's going to talk about why he's been such a maverick when you think about his year in 2024 so far, where he's actually not lost a single match. Maybe you could say he's EBW, XCW, or maybe even underground and backyard wrestling's Goldberg. Well, he looks like, I mean, figuratively and literally. I mean, they may have said that when he was tag teaming with Julian Void Jacobs, he was a combined 969 pounds, but I don't think he's 969 pounds, half of that. But I think looking at this man from Seattle, Washington, 6'1", 245 pounds, a man that is a riot, figuratively and literally in the ring, with wins this year alone over the likes of SAT, ACT, Brady Branson, Unholy, even a tag team in the IMF. Boy, Unholy mentioned them. They're no longer a team anymore. Brady Branson, James Cerebral, well, he even defeated, in fact, two of the most three recent XCW World Heavyweight Champions. This man has certainly had quite a journey. And for many years, we wondered what would happen to Mitchell Maverick again in the ring. Well, he answered that in 2023 when he made his long-awaited and now so far triumphant return to XCW. And this man's got a lot to say. When you think about the word maverick, ladies and gentlemen, a maverick kind of goes their own way, and you never know which way a maverick will go. And he's certainly proven that and some here. And I have a feeling that Julian Void Jacobs is going to hear an earful tonight about why Mitchell Maverick figuratively and literally lived up to his name of being a maverick. And on top of that, why he figuratively and literally has lived up to his name of being the Riot. And something tells me now that he's going to be aligned with the likes of my old friend Tommy the Man Merriman, Miano Diaz. Stay tuned for that. I might have an announcement for you, Mr. Maverick. James Cerebral, Brady Branson, Chris Jones, only in my Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And boy, maybe the best manager in this sport in Luke Blaze. Boy, this man being aligned with them, you just wait till you see what happens for him in the second half of 2024. But, you know, this man has been waiting to come on Sportswire Radio for a long time, and he's got a lot to say. And before he does that, I've got to announce something for him. I have a little something for him toward the end of the show. But while I have that, I know that Mr. Maverick is waiting to hear that introduction that so many of his peers have gotten on Sportswire Radio lore, and maybe even a couple of men that he's been a part in the ring side by side and defeated, such as the likes as Justin Parsley, or maybe I have to change that shirt now, Brogan O'Shea, Fletch. Let's not even go there and mention some of those names. Rob Slater, the essential one. I'm not sure Mr. Maverick thinks that he's so essential these days. And then, obviously, the man that he certainly said sayonara to, and na 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 na, hey hey hey, goodbye, and Julian Void Jacobs. Boy, you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, tonight is going to be a riot. I promise you, this is going to be a Maverick-like show. So, after all, many of those guests got that introduction. Now it's time to give Mitchell Maverick that introduction that he deserves, and especially now that he is a victorious member of EBW, and he has been undefeated this year in 2024. So let's get right to it in prime time live on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters, and introduce our guest as your master of ceremonies and the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, as your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here. Let's get right to it. So with that, Wait for it. Further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one global sports show from Seattle, Washington, the newest member of ABW. Simply put, his name is Mitchell, the Riot Maverick. My friend, welcome aboard.
I'm glad to be here, and that was one hell of a fucking introduction. I love it. So much energy and wow.
You know, it's funny you said that, and we're going to talk a lot because there's a lot to get into with you. I mean, you've certainly become quite a topic here in a short amount of time, but it's funny. I do these Hall of Fame introductions, and they go on 15, 17 minutes. Usually when I have just a regular appearance from somebody to come on, it's like, okay, it's 2-3 minutes, but now even those are turning into like 6-7 minute fest. I mean, yours was 6+ minutes. I had Xavier Thorne, I won't go into that. Yesterday, he was about 5.5 minutes. So it seems like give me a month or so, or the next time you come on to Sportzwire Radio, you might get that 10, 12-minute introduction before you even go into the Hall of Fame. But obviously, it's good to be with you, my friend. You have certainly been quite a topic, as I stated here, over the past few months, and what an impact you have made since you've returned to XCW, and now you've changed allegiances. You might want to say, to quote our most recent show here on XCW. And I'll make sure we plug that here shortly in a few minutes. But for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters, Mitchell the Riot Maverick, tell us, for those that are listening, and why that you had decided to maybe go back home and join EBW at the sort of, maybe you want to put it, at the behest of your old tag team partner, XCW Hall of Famer Julian Void Jacobs.
Well, see, we just guys call it as this. Business is business. You know? Sometimes you gotta toss people out into the void to let them figure their own stuff out. And as far as me being back in EBW, it's more or less like I never even left.
Why? Tell me why. Why do you say that you never left?
Because once you're a part of something that big, you just, even though I went on my little sabbatical.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to definitely get into the sabbatical. I'm sure that's where people are going to be like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay, but we'll get to that for sure.
Yeah, but I always felt like I've always been a part of EBW. Not, even though I came back and had to start back off as XCW, which wasn't a bad run, but believe me, could have been better.
Why do you say that it could have been better?
Well, nothing against them, but just the energy EBW gives off. I mean, look at Miano, for example. Look at the poster child, I guess you could call him.
Oh, he's an up-and-comer. Listen, Miano right now, I mean, he's, when I would say for up-and-coming or the future of underground and backyard or semi-pro wrestling, is Fletch would call it, I think that he's the poster child right now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an up-and-comer. He's got a tremendous moveset. He's got energy like I haven't seen, other than maybe D'Angelo LaFlame, a guy who has made a name in different promotions, who's in the chat right now, and one of my favorite wrestlers. Another guy, Miano is right there. Miano is really, to me, one of the faces of the future of underground and backyard wrestling. You've got that, James Cerebral. I mean, he does he have like EBW in his veins? Is his bleed the colors of EBW? That's what I kind of feel with him. Chris Jones, a man who's in my Hall of Fame, know him very well. Another one of my buddies, Tommy the Man Merriman, who's made quite an impact since he's also joined EBW, and can never forget about Luke Blaze. And oh, by the way, the man that won the most Viewers' Choice Awards last year at XCW to close the year out. and the man that was only the world champion for most of the second half of 2023, a man you actually defeated not too long ago. I'm not going to bring that up though right away.
Yeah.
Brady Branson. So some group there, right?
Yeah. I mean, everybody in EBW right now has got such high energy and passion for that brand itself that we will do, as I should say, anything and everything possible to keep our brand above XCW.
Let me ask you this question, and it's kind of interesting because it reminds me what you just said of like if you're a sports fan and you get traded, let's say at the quote unquote trade deadline. Well, let's say you're a part of a losing team, but then all of a sudden you get traded to a winning team, a team that's either going to the playoffs or maybe on a run to win a championship, whether it's the Super Bowl, the NBA championship that's going on, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, those sports in particular. It's almost like, from what you're telling me, it's as if you feel that maybe you've been traded from a losing team to a winning team, and you kind of feel that, right? Is that kind of a fair assessment where I made basically what you went from kind of a losing team to now basically being traded to a team that's winning and probably going to win a championship or compete for it, kind of in that sports analogy? What do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that for the most part. Just I also feel like XCW likes to play by the rules a little too much. And you know how rules are meant to be bent or broken a little bit.
Hey, Ozzy always famously said breaking all the rules, and EBW doesn't play by the rules. But okay, but it's fair for me to say then that XCW was definitely a losing atmosphere. XCW was kind of, let's say, a void without leadership. XCW was lacking the things that you see in EBW. EBW's got the energy. EBW's got the gold. EBW's got the colors. EBW's got the numbers. EBW's even got the referees in their pockets. And so, to be fair, those are things as to what you see as EBW being the future.
Yeah, and I mean, money helps too.
Well, that certainly, money makes the world go around, as they always famously said. And let me ask you then this question. I want to obviously get into the match itself and also your run, and I want to say hello to some people here shortly that are tuned in. But let me ask you, and I don't know how to phrase this, and I don't know. You tell me what you think on it. You can say whatever you want, but are we looking at the demise of XCW and XCW's final days, basically after what we saw at Allegiance? Let me just start right off with that. What do you think on that?
I feel like they're more like going through we could call it a recession. For lack of better word.
Well, we kind of are right now in the world, at least in America, going through what they now call stagflation. It reminds me of my economics class in college. But so you're saying that XCW is going through a recession, but could I make the argument that XCW is going through such a recession that the way things are going, I don't know, maybe by Extreme King, Summer Mania, could we be looking at potentially EBW instead of XCW as the brand that we look at? Is that a fair question for me to ask?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we always shoot for, isn't it?
Obviously, you want to take over by any means necessary. You pretty much said that. I mean, you have the numbers. I mean, who does XCW really have right now? I mean, we saw this 5-on-5 match. Let's talk about it for a few minutes. I mean, I've been watching wrestling, I would think, a long time, and I cover a lot of wrestling. As you know, we pretty much cover almost as many backyard, underground, independent, and pro wrestling companies out there. In fact, I'm even worldwide. I do a lot of coverage in England and other countries. And tell me your thoughts on this. I don't think I've ever seen a 5-on-5 or an elimination match as dominant as the one that I've seen. And as a matter of fact, I've been doing this for 5 years, over 5, as a matter of fact, as we speak. I don't think I've ever seen it where one team completely not only eliminated the other team in an elimination match. It wasn't even close. I mean, this was almost kind of like it was a murder almost. You guys murdered XCW. It was almost like, I mean, just this should have been like a hate crime almost. EBW should be maybe convicted of hate crimes for basically what you guys did to XCW. Serious question here. Have you ever been a part or seen something as dominant, what we seen in the main event of Allegiance, where EBW you guys swept XCW out of the building? I've never seen that before in a 5-on-5 match.
I mean, to be honest, I have never seen it at all.
Exactly. That's exactly what I've said. I've been doing this for 5 years. I've been covering wrestling for 4. I've never covered an elimination match like this before. Literally, it wasn't even close. Not even close.
No, it looked like a straight wash on our end. Like just
It was. It
trying to
was.
clean the slate off of XCW.
What's that like though, being a part of something as dominant at that as it was? I mean, this was like I said, it was almost like a hate crime what you guys did on XCW.
I mean, back in the day when I was first a part of it, we were the same way. Just
So,
XCW had a little bit better people, and I was just beginning, so you know how that goes. A lot of rust, actually not even rust. I'd say a lot of inexperience
what
back
do
when I
you?
first started.
Okay, so tell me then. Let's talk about it for a few minutes. What did you learn from the experience in EBW now to what you think you'll know being a part of it now? I know you only back in it really for just tonight, but I'm imagining that you're going to be in EBW for a while, right? Otherwise, what's the point? But what do you think you've learned from the first time you were in EBW to where you've joined tonight?
Well, I mean, since I've been back with XCW, I mean, I've been working for it to get back, kind of like being like ET trying to get back home.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, you guys were for a while. Interesting you said that. I wasn't going to go right away with it, but you were quote unquote labeled these EBW rejects, or I even said one on a prior episode, EBW hopefuls. But, maybe all along you weren't the EBW reject. It was Julian Voigt Jacobs that was the EBW reject. No?
I mean, yeah, but there's always time. We're always looking to recruit people, and if he proves himself to be able to do whatever he has to win, then he could look to be part of the team. But at the end of the day, that's not my call.
Okay, but you said something like you were ET looking to go back home, right?
Right.
And even though you guys, I guess, were sort of XCW again, you were trying to get into EBW last year. You were trying to take the tag team championships away from Justin Parsley and the Essential One, Rob Slater. That was that whole thing with Julian Voigt Jacobs being a therapist. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to go down that road. I'm sure Mr. Jacobs I can revisit that. He might need a therapist after what you did to him today. But the point is that were you always, after what you just told me, always looking to come back to EBW, basically? Kind of what, even though you guys were trying to reclaim gold and, were you always looking at greener pastures?
Most definitely. I mean, what else is there to do but to look at greener pastures? But also, you got to water what you're walking on too. So I mean, tried to help out XCW as much as I could, but hey, when the time came to go back to EBW, of course I'm going to jump right onto it. I mean, been with Cerebral for what, years now?
You know him over 10 years, obviously.
Yeah. And so all these new people with XCW, yeah, they're fairly new talent. They do got some good talent. Hunter Halkin, for example.
Well, Hunter Halkin was the one shining light tonight. He was the one shining light tonight for XCW. I mean, he defeated, your leader, Chris Jones. I mean, what did you think about that?
The sun shines on a dog's ass once in a while.
Is that possible for sunshine on a dog's ass? Is that possible?
I don't know, but we can try.
Fair play. Okay, all right. So I got that. So let me ask you, though, two things. Let's go first. I'm going to come back to Cerebral in a second, but did you and Julian Jacobs ever discuss the matter of EBW? I know, obviously, you had the segments with Luke Blaze and Chris Jones about trying to get into EBW, but let's say off TV, you guys were obviously a team for months, many months, as a matter of fact. Did you guys ever talk about the situation of EBW? Were you guys on the same page when it came to EBW or no?
It seemed like towards the end, before all this happened, that he started to fall off, like he had lost hope on getting into, but really, I've never lost hope.
Why did he lose hope, you think?
Because he seemed to think, like, man, I don't even think we're ever going to be able to get in it and all that, getting that down mood. To the point where he turned into the therapist that he needed to be laying on the daybed.
Well, he's probably going to need a therapist right now, basically, after what he's going through. And you actually, ironically enough, cost him a shot at that EBW World Heavyweight title. I mean, was that the plan all along? Or, I mean, that's kind of ironic, don't you think?
No, actually, That was all, I would say, my doing. I did that on my own regard.
So that was basically something that you didn't plan this for months. This was, I
No,
mean, obviously, no. This was
like
just
like you
basically,
said, a Maverick. You never know where I'm going to go.
and that's, as you'll probably chuckle, I've actually in my life kind of always been labeled as a Maverick. So this was a Maverick move. This was kind of like you saw the opening. You said, you know what, Julian Voigt Jacobs, you don't want him to have that moment. You'd rather, and it showed to EBW that, you proved your worth. Although the irony of this still is that Jackson Law is the EBW World Heavyweight Champion. Oh, the irony of that, though, right?
Yeah, he ain't gonna hold that for long. Look,
What do you make of that, though? He's held the title for as long as he has. I mean, that's kind of the odd ball in this whole situation between EBW and XCW, right? This is the most bizarre thing I've seen.
sometimes it's a hook, line, and sinker on him.
So it's luck, basically. Eventually, luck runs out. No,
or sometimes you just got to bait them in, make them think they're all big and bad, and come in for the killing blow when they least expect it.
Fair play, fair play. Let me get to some comments here. I got a bunch of people that like to say hello. First of all, I want to say hello to my buddy, Mr. D'Angelo Flame. I had mentioned him. He is another up-and-coming wrestler, very similar to Miano Diaz. He says hello. D'Angelo has wrestled in multiple promotions. So XCW, if you're out there, or EBW, Mr. Blaze, if you're out there, you want to recruit some EBW members, I would recommend D'Angelo Flame. I want to say hello to my buddy up north from you guys, right in Wisconsin. Is Wisconsin north from Indiana? Is that how it works? Or it's south?
I'd say up and over.
Okay, so I was kind of partially right. I'm a New Yorker. I'm a Yankee, although I'm not a Yankees fan, so I don't know anything. What do I know? Although technically I'm not a Yankees fan, but I'm considered a Yankee. That is Sean Jovi, the resident rock star, is going to be here Wednesday night with a big announcement, but he was here last night, and that's a different conversation for a different time. He says hi, and definitely make sure you check him out. Want to say hello to one of my buddies, the general manager of the Alliance Wrestling League in the great state of Alabama. Now, that would be to the left on the south side, right? Are you guys right? Because Alabama's in the south. You guys are kind of up in the middle. So that would be kind of down south from you guys. Hillbilly Tilly is the general manager of the Alliance Wrestling League in my Hall of Fame. He says all wrestling matters, and we're going to make sure we plug XCW in a second. And speaking of people, I suppose that may or may not be a part of XCW, his name is Mr. Michael Christian. He is otherwise known as Mr. Michael Blackheart. His stepfather, though, or ex-stepfather, you'd probably recognize Festus Davis. He was actually the referee for a little while in today's match, and you obviously know Mr. Festus, and he actually retired Festus Davis. Now you'll probably remember who he was because he retired him, and he also wrestled the man that I'm wearing the shirt of right now that I know you have no love for in Justin Parsley. But by the way, Justin Parsley, so you know, the last time he was on Sportzwire Radio actually walked off the show. So the good news is you're staying here. You're not walking off, but Justin Parsley walked off, and he says, hello, Reverend, hello, Mitchell. Great to meet you, XCW. So you guys have met. Good to know that. I'm going to plug some XCW things here in a few minutes. Okay, so obviously you're a part of EBW. Let's start and take baby steps. What are your goals here in EBW?
To eventually get some gold.
Okay.
I mean,
what kind of gold would you like? Now, obviously, Jackson Law's got the EBW title. I would think that would be a natural target for you, no?
There ain't no single target, and why not? If you get one, why not go get them all?
True. But I would think
that's my ultimate.
But I would think Jackson Law's title is the one title that EBW says, you know what, I want that, and they've said that they want that title back. So I would think that that's a natural target for you.
Yeah, I mean that might be number one target, but at the end goal, I would hope to get all of them.
Well, everybody wants that.
I mean, of course, minus maybe the lightweight. I mean, I like my McDonald's too much.
Well, as I said, I know that they announced you and Julian when you were a team of 969 pounds. I don't think you're weighing that big, but I certainly may not confuse you for a Miano, but I'm certainly going to say, you know what, you probably could still do a number of things in the ring that I can't do. So who am I to judge? Okay, so obviously gold is something that's important to you, and it's also important because you've come back to XCW, and now EBW you're a part of, and you've held gold in the past. And, how much have you thought about then when you held gold in the past? Obviously, you were a New Age champion. You held one half of the tag team titles once upon a time. Since you've come back, how much have you thought about those runs in order to kind of motivate and prepare for you when the moment is right to reclaim gold?
I mean, I've thought about it a lot. I'm always trying to think like 3 moves ahead, like in chess. That way, at least get something going. You always got to start small, then work your way up to bigger things.
I see. I didn't realize you were a chess player, but I'm not going to argue with you on that. Fair play. Okay, so obviously you've thought about those situations. And talk to me then about obviously now being a part of this EBW and being a part of the members that you're aligned with, and especially James Cerebral you talked about. James Cerebral is a man you have a lot of history in. I had asked you the two-part question about 10 minutes ago about Julian Voigt Jacobs and kind of how you guys talked maybe off the air, if there was anything about joining EBW. But James Cerebral is somebody a very long time. Was he influential in any way for you, in as you stated, kind of like ET coming home, for you coming home to EBW? So how influential James Cerebral may have been?
He's influential. He's a great wrestler. I naturally know him personally to the point where, yeah, we might have matches and he might give me that dictate. But, hey, sometimes just like he does, he's got to do what he's got to do. I got to do what I got to do.
Let me ask you this. This is an interesting question because he's come up on Sportswire for different reasons with different guys in the locker room. Chris Jones was inducted into my Hall of Fame a couple of months ago. We talked a little bit about EBW. Parsley and Slater have been here. I've had Brogan O'Shea on. I've had, obviously, Julian Voigt Jacobs, your old tag team partner here. But let me ask you, though, if I were to say to you that in many ways, James Cerebral is the heart and soul of EBW because he was the one that has never, ever let EBW go. Literally his blood. It's not red blood. It's EBW. This man literally and figuratively bleeds EBW. If I were to tell you that James Cerebral is the reason EBW is back and he's the heart and soul of EBW, what would you say to that?
I believe it.
You do?
I mean, yeah, he does bleed it, but he also stays G'd up. And being G'd up, you don't really just go wishy-washy on each company. You know what I mean?
He's loyal. He's a guy that he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's a guy that basically is what he is. He's not lying. He's a straight shooter. That's basically
it's for him. It's no gimmick. Out in the real world, personal life, same way.
Well, maybe that works. I think people appreciate that, and I think that's why the group is, he's so successful and. Being a part of this group and, right away, you make such a splash. Obviously, we saw what happened with Julian Voigt Jacobs, but you pin ACT right off the bat. You have had quite a run. As I mentioned in my introduction of you, you are actually undefeated this year in 2024. You are arguably right there, our Goldberg of backyard and underground wrestling. You have had quite a run in this calendar year. And not only have you defeated ACT, but the irony is you've defeated SAT. So I guess that means you've aced the SATs and the ACTs by defeating SAT and ACT. Kind of the irony. I don't know if you really realize that or not, but I'm surprised. I'm surprised JJ and Blackheart haven't mentioned that before on the show. I'm surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I actually surprised myself with that one because I've never been good in school.
Well, I did okay in the SAT. I only took the SAT. I did okay in the SATs, but the point is that you've defeated ACT and SAT, but you defeat ACT right off the bat. ACT was the world heavyweight champion going into this year, and that's a monumental win to kick you off your EBW run here, your reboot, you might want to say. And how big was that for you right off the bat to pin the man that was the world heavyweight champion for months?
It felt phenomenal, even though Tommy thinks it's just luck. But, hey, I'm willing to prove Tommy wrong no matter what.
Well, Tommy the Man Merriman is a man I've interviewed twice. He is certainly an interesting individual. He certainly has his own opinions. He's another guy that's kind of a maverick. You might be the Riot and a maverick, but he's the man. But, you've actually, it's interesting. And tell me your thoughts on this. And I don't know where you go with this, but most recently, within the last month, you defeated, before Miano Diaz, the two most recent XCW World Heavyweight Champions. You pinned Brady Branson and you pinned ACT. Let me ask you this question. Right now, was that the two biggest wins of your career so far?
I mean, as a start off, yeah. It's always good to get a little boost, I guess you could say.
I mean, defeating two world. I know you had a run in the first, incarnation of you, but to defeat two of the previous world heavyweight champions, I mean, that's pretty impressive. Not only did you do that, you did that in a span of a month. Most people in their career, if they're lucky, defeat a world champion. You defeated 2 world heavyweight champions in a span of a month. I mean, that's really impressive.
I mean, I guess that just goes to show you what I was like back in the beginning. Because I know when I first come back, they said, "Oh, we got Mitchell Maverick back," and Brady, I guess you could say, when he first started, looked almost exactly like me. So I guess he was kind of playing me.
How so?
Because just the way he looked, he had the same haircut, same stuff. Guess he could be. Guess he just like tried to emulate me.
So I think now that you're keeping the hair like this, so you won't look like Brady. That the whole new running thing.
Yeah. Next thing you know, Brady's gonna be like that.
Well, if Brady does that, I can assure you that Brady won't be able to grow it back off the top because it's going to be a little bit difficult for him to do that. But it's still pretty impressive to defeat 2 former world heavyweight champions in a span of a month. And on top of that, as I mentioned in my introduction of you, and I'll say hello back to Michael Christian for a second, but you've been undefeated in this calendar year of 2024. We were talking about this off the air. You were like, I thought your exact words, I thought I was, but now that you tell me, yeah, I think I am. And that's pretty impressive. When you hear something like that, we're now basically almost as crazy as that time is flying. We're now almost about 2/5 of the way through this year. What does that mean to you to actually be undefeated in this calendar year so far?
It's a feat that I thought I would never get to, but I mean, hey, you got. I guess it just shows that you grow a lot more and you get a lot better without even realizing it. You know what I mean?
Do you feel that you have a maturity that you lacked in the first run?
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Tell me why.
Well, are you saying first run as in way back in the day?
Obviously, the first run from 10 years ago, you obviously had success then, but this year you're undefeated in the calendar year. So, I mean, you said you had a maturity. What and why do you have a maturity, you would say, from?
Because there was a lot of things that happened in the span of when I first I didn't left. I mean, I guess you could say I left, but I had some addiction problems.
You
You
had
know
some
what I mean?
demons. You had some demons that were really significant. When Tommy
Yeah.
the Man Aram was here, we talked about prison when he was here the first time, and you had different demons. And
I mean,
what were those demons like?
yes and no. I mean, I was out there doing all the hard drugs you could get your hand on. So basically, drugs took
What
over my
kind of
life.
drugs? Was it like Coca-Cola, or was it kind of different types of drugs?
It's the drugs that you don't want to get into, like
The drugs that they would tell me in school that don't try it and don't
drugs are
do it.
bad, kids. Drugs are bad.
Yeah, well,
But yeah, I was hooked on them for basically from the time I was gone to literally, I'd say about a year and a couple months before coming back, because I did the right thing after going to jail a couple times. So I mean, it's no big deal. It's
no. Listen, you know what? I'm always I'm a reverend, right? So I'm
right.
always a believer, and I think people they did their time. Everybody should get second chances. I'm a sports fan, right? And famously, Darryl Strawberry and Doc Gooden were big baseball players in New York, and these guys went to jail and were in rehabs. I don't know how many times, and they were just honored by the New York Mets organization. So my opinion is always, if you did your time, you should be allowed to do what you like. And I also am a believer that, what, I never walked in your shoes. I don't know what you were like. So talk to me. Why did you go into those demons? Why did you go into drugs? What were the reasons that you had them?
Bad crowds. I mean, the most problem was I didn't want to look at myself in the mirror, so I basically did the drugs to hide from who I was. I didn't feel like I was worth a damn or anything like that.
Why did you feel like you weren't worth a damn?
I don't know. It could have been just the drugs taking hold. Doing it the first time, hey, and just it's one of them build-ups, and then you just lose control. And so yeah, I just basically got out of jail, went straight to rehab, spent a whole from July 17th of 22 to April 21st, I want to say, of the next following year. So I spent a whole year and some months, or a little less than a year, but did great things there. I found who.
What was jail like, if you don't mind me asking? I've never been to jail, so I would like to know for my audience, what is jail like?
If you like to play euchre and rummy a lot, that's the port where you need to be.
Although you probably chuckle, I'm sure that there are other wrestlers and other promotions that may or may not watch my platform would love to have me go into jail for some of the things I say on this platform. I'm only kidding; it's a joke. I'm trying a career at stand-up comedy, but you know, what did jail do to motivate you to turn your life around?
Basically, I found a book, the NA book,
Okay.
and that the NA book's just basically the little brother of the actual Alcoholics Anonymous book. It says the same thing. They only change a alcoholic to addict. That's the only difference.
When you were in jail, let me ask you this question. We're here with Mitchell the Riot Maverick. He is the newest member of EBW. He was very successful tonight. As a matter of fact, he pinned ACT, the most recent XCW World Champion, before Miano Diaz. And in the past month, he has defeated Brady Branson and ACT, and he's undefeated this year in the calendar year of 2024. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling. If you'd like to follow XCW on YouTube, where you can watch Allegiance, you can do that right here on the YouTube channel. And I'll also put up some other social media links here. I'll also get to some comments shortly. So hang on tight, and thank you, everybody, for your support. Also, please support XCW and all those great platforms. Let me ask you this question. And when you were in jail, what did you think about? Did you ever say to yourself, you know what, I'm never going to be back in wrestling? What were your thoughts back in jail?
Back in jail, I just wanted to focus on myself, better myself to get back to my wife and kids. That way they actually had a husband and a father that they can actually depend on, per se, instead of just being out running the streets while she's at home taking care of the kids, and I'd be gone for a whole work shift, doing nothing, sitting on the floor, looking for drugs to get. I mean, during that time it looked like, I want to do that. But growing up, now I have a lot more money, a lot more stuff I can get. I can actually get my kids whatever they want for their birthdays. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm happy to hear that. I mean, and your wife, you have to give her a lot of credit because she stood by you. There's a lot of people out there in your wife's position, if you don't mind me saying so, that would have said sayonara. They wouldn't have believed in you. They would have said hit the bricks. I mean, I speak to people a lot of times, and I see a lot of things in the world. Yeah. I've worked in politics. I've seen people that they cut you dry. They would, they'd walk all over you. But your wife, she didn't have that. She believed in you. What did that mean to you?
That meant the world to me. As a matter of fact, she dealt with my whole shit for a whole 4.5, 5 years, because we've been married for 6 years now.
Congratulations.
And she dealt with all that for the whole time. That's a commendable woman, if you'd ask me.
I think absolutely. I think that woman should be named for this Nobel Peace Prize, considering what you went through. No, I mean, no seriousness, but I mean, it had to motivate you, though, knowing that your wife was behind you, getting out of prison, and just maybe wanting to try this back out in this whole crazy thing in the ring. I mean, you had things to live for then, from what you're telling me in jail.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting Fletch to actually get a hold of me to come back to wrestling when I first come back for the Kurt Acid Royal Rumble.
I'm going to talk to you about Kurt Acid in a few minutes, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I was like, of course I'd come back. I missed wrestling, and that's one of the first shows that I took my wife and kids to, and they loved it. So now I just, instead of doing that one and done thing, I decided to stick with it, give them something to look forward to go to, get them out of the house here and there. It's all about creating time with family.
Let me get to a few comments here before we come back to that, because people want to talk to you. Just finished the show. I thought my match with Justin was brutal until he watched what you guys did to Team XCW. They're basically extinct. You'd call them extinct championship wrestling after what you guys did to them. I agree with Michael. Demons, you concurred, have made you the damn man. out of the locker room, damn proud you're clean. Yeah, I think we're all proud of you because you're here, and that's why you got this new lease on life inside the ring and outside the ring. You got a beautiful family that you're living for. You got a good job. You obviously got support in the locker room, and I think that this run's going to be a lot more successful than the first run. Want to say hello to another former XCW alum, Mr. Anthony Steele, the real deal. He was obviously also a fellow New Age champion. He says hello. So okay, so then you obviously have these demons, but you conquer them. When did you know, hey, I want to come back into the ring? You obviously had the run the first time, but we spoke a little bit about what happened in the past. Did you know, hey, I'm going to come back to XCW? And, when was that moment that you said, hey, I'll get a chance to come back?
I personally didn't ever expect to come back to wrestling because I feel like what happened 10 years ago, basically me just leaving Fletch high and dry, no explanation or nothing. I thought that was kind of a shitball thing that I did, so I didn't expect him to actually get a hold of me to come back. So I guess that's kind of, you can call it a blessing.
Why do you think that was that he, brought you back almost?
Kurt Acid. I think he'd be the main reason since I wrestled with him, Kurt, since the beginning of when I started. And then his tragic passing.
Oh my! Well, we did a tribute. Unfortunately, I inducted him into my Hall of Fame a few weeks ago on his birthday, and that's very sad. And especially if I guess you might want to say today we did a tribute on the opening up of XCW's show for Allegiance, and leave aside what you've done in joining EBW. I'm sure you saw the video package, and it was nice, but it was kind of sad in a way because you're watching a man in his highlights and seeing him throughout his career, but he was a man that only lived till he was 34 years old.
Yeah,
and I was wondering, what did that mean to you when you watched the video package today of Kurt Acid?
I mean, yeah, it was heart-wrenching, I guess you could say, but it's sad to see him go, but I know he's in a better place, so I can't be too sad. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to sound morbid about it, but
no. Listen, everybody handles death differently. Everybody has different feelings, and we all miss him. I wish I could have interviewed him. I wish that I could have had the opportunity to speak with him. Did he ever give you any advice? Did he talk to you when you were in prison?
No, he had not. Which I mean, I don't blame anybody that didn't talk to me while I was in jail, locked up, because I didn't personally vocalize it. I don't even think they knew I was in jail. I kind of kept it to myself.
Why would you have not vocalized it? I mean, I'm sure you had friends in the first run in XCW. I'm sure there would have been people that would have reached out and cared. Do you think that would have helped and made a difference, or no?
I mean, it would have helped, but I don't blame them for not doing it because, I mean, basically, I made my bed. I had to lie in it. I'm not going to put my burdens onto someone else that's got their own problems out in the world.
Fair enough. No, and I could certainly understand that. And speaking of people that you just saw across the apron, Mr. Justin Parsley is here. And, of course, Mr. Parsley is a two-time Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. I'm sure we'll get into him in a few minutes. There is only one unsinkable boat. Love and miss you, Benzie. Yes, he is definitely the best of all time. And, we miss him dearly. And I was talking with Justin off the air before we came on the air, and I thought the video package was nice, but it was sad in some ways because we saw, and even the song itself, we were seeing someone go through time, but we don't get to see them again. It's almost like when we lose a sports team, when we lose a family member. And in many ways, Benji Kurt Acid was that. He was a family member. He was a friend. He was a teammate. He was a locker room leader, and he was a champion. And, thankfully we have all the XCW content that we can still relive all those great moments. But it was a young man that was only 34 years old that, we don't get a chance to see him through the birthdays, growing up, growing old, seeing the company reach more anniversaries, more people coming in. I think that's the sad part, but we can still always live through the good and obviously remember those good times. And we had with him. But obviously, my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, World Wrestling Matters here. And we are speaking with Mitchell the Riot Maverick. And he has certainly made such a riot today because he is the newest member of EBW. And boy, Julian Void Jacobs, XCW Hall of Famer, found that out. And Team XCW found that out. ACT found that out. And he's, oh, by the way, undefeated this year in the calendar year of 2024. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here. If you're on Sportswire Radio, you can check us out anytime on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579, Twitch at Sportswire Radio, and Twitter at Thomas Bryce 2017, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player and sportswireradio.org. That is our new internet radio station website. So if you want to see some members that are in the Hall of Fame from EBW and XCW, you can do that here at sportswireradio.org. Also via the Listen Live button is our internet radio station where you can check out all of our great content. And I look forward to more coverage. And, you know, speaking of EBW coverage, Mitchell the Riot Maverick, I'm going to announce it here. And especially for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, on May 17th, 2 weeks from tomorrow, live on all Sportswire Radio platforms, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, none other than the EBW superstar himself, the XCW heavyweight champion of the world, Miano Diaz, is live on Sportswire Radio. He makes his debut to the world, and boy, he is going to have, I am sure, a lot to say about representing EBW as the XCW world champion after what he did conquering ACT, and obviously Team EBW's clean sweep over XCW, and certainly what he's done to Fletch. And I'm sure a lot of people are very happy how he's been manhandling Fletch, and Fletch has got his own problems, though, with pretty much everybody else these days in XCW, and who knows where else. But Miano Diaz is going to be here live, and if you think that Miano Diaz with the ring and what he does with his ring techniques, being one of the future stars in backyard and underground wrestling, is going to be one for the ages, wait until you see Miano Diaz with the microphone live on Sportswire Radio. It is going to be a real treat. The champ is here. The XCW heavyweight champion of the world, Miano Diaz, is live May 17th, 2 weeks from tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on all Sportswire Radio platforms. I know that even Fletch might be listening to that one. I am sure the boys in EBW are going to be listening and watching to that one. And I know everybody else in this sport is going to want to certainly hear what the reigning defending XCW champion of the world, the premier representative of EBW, has to say. Remember, this was the guy that Chris Jones picked. Chris Jones picked Miano Diaz. And boy, Chris Jones certainly called his shot. And look at Miano Diaz since then. You thought Miano Diaz had success with Patrick O'Reilly? Well, he's times that times 10 because he's got the prize, the championship that everybody in this sport wants, which is that XCW heavyweight championship of the world. And he's going to be here live 2 weeks from tomorrow. It'll be a live one. It'll be a real one, you might want to say. It'll be a real one later, but we are here right now with Mitchell the Riot Maverick. And Justin Parsley wants to say the sauce that brings the heat, and boy, he certainly does that. But you know, I'm going to take this off the screen and come back with some more XCW plugs in a second, Mitchell Maverick, the Riot. But I did want to talk to you, and obviously a bunch of other things here that have come up today. Now, obviously, you guys were very successful. You guys obviously get this big victory, and you clean sweep of Team XCW. Now, I know you can't speak for the rest of the group, but do you feel like that there are goals to bring in more members? Are you stopping at 5? Are you stopping at a referee? And I know it's only just been a few hours really since you've joined the group, but what do you think on some of those things?
I mean, if I know Chris Jones the way I do, I believe he's not going to stop at just 5. He's always looking. I guess he's trying to pick him precisely, like to what he needs. You know. Yeah, we might got a smaller group right now, but he's always looking to get bigger talent, better, a better skill set, I guess you could say. He's always trying to overcome XCW, which, I mean, he's doing a hell of a job at it this year.
XCW seems to be disorganized right now. XCW, we spoke about at the beginning of the show. Justin Parsley's here, and I'm sure people in the locker room are going to hear this at some point. And XCW, you look at it, XCW in the past, right, always had a leader. There was always somebody to lead the charge, to push back and fight against EBW. But right now, if I'm looking at it, even though, sure, Hunter Halkin defeated Chris Jones, and what a match that was, but I don't see anybody right now in that XCW locker room that's waving the flag and can almost be their guy that leads the charge, rallies the troops. In sports, there's always, for a team that wins a championship, there's always that kind of X factor, that straw that stirs the drink, or that leader that brings in a certain skill set that can help everybody be organized and kind of rise over all the challenges and pitfalls that they face. But, you were in that locker room, and tell me your thoughts on it, in the fact that I don't see anybody right now in XCW that could kind of lead and galvanize that group. What do you see there from that vantage point?
What I see is a lot. Yeah, XCW recruited a lot of new people. Not trying. Well, I guess it's going to sound bad either way, but inexperienced per se. So I mean,
a lot of up and comers. You spoke about that earlier in the show. A lot of up and comers. A lot of guys that, they don't have the experience. They haven't been through a battle like you have, and maybe some of the guys in EBW have been in.
Right, and that's not necessarily a good thing nor a bad thing at the same time. It just depends, because not only is it their skill set, but they got to have the mindset and motivation. Some of them might have it, some of them might not. I can't be inside their heads.
When you were in the XCW locker room, obviously you were an XCW guy for a little while here. Did anybody ever say, hey, should you be one of the locker room leaders? Did anybody ever ask you advice on this? I mean, were you ever brought up in that way, or maybe talk? So
no, no one's came up to me personally and said that. Now, if they went to Fletcher or something else and said something, that's on them. But nothing was said to me personally.
You think that that's also a reason why you decided, you know what, I want to pull a Maverick move and I want to hightail it, because I'm a guy, look at my experiences. I've been in EBW before. I've been on the inside. I've also got an interesting life where I've had these experiences that most people in life would never have overcame, and most people in your shoes would be dead by now. You would think that naturally you would have been a locker room leader in XCW. Do you think that maybe in a way that the locker room, that you kind of expected to be a leader, or you expected guys to get advice from you, and that's maybe a reason why you also decided to hightail it?
I mean, I wouldn't say hightail it. I didn't run from them. I just used it as
well, hightailing it could be a number of different ways. You basically, I mean, you jump ship. How about that? You jump ship.
Well, I mean, I was always going to jump ship once I got that chance to get back in EBW. Like I said, I want to go home.
Right. You said you used the word ET, going home, but you were technically XCW for what it was worth. You were technically XCW. So basically, would it be fair for me to ask, though, let's say if guys were like really wanted you to be a rallying factor, a rallying cry, guys looked to you and said, you know what, we really want you around. We need you. You've been there before. You've had that success. Would you have maybe at least had a tougher decision to stay if guys were kind of wanting you kind of for input, advice, and just to kind of have your experiences to help them maybe in this fight? Do you think that would have made it a tougher decision at least?
I mean, it would have made it a tougher decision, but I think at the time of that, they were all looking more towards Parsley to be that.
And why do you think that was? I mean, Parsley, he's obviously a guy that's got an interesting history like you, but for a completely different reason. Right. So what did you think of that?
I mean, I don't blame him. He's been doing wrestling for well longer than I have.
20 years, about 20, 21 years.
I mean, where were they going to look for? A 10-year vet over a 20-year vet? What are they going to do? They're obviously going to choose the 20-year. It's just like out in the workforce, or is someone going to hire someone that ain't ever touched a machine in their life, or someone that's got 5+ years experience?
But you still have life experiences that nobody in that locker room has.
Yeah, but then again, at the same time, I guess I was never asked about my life experiences. Yeah, the locker room knew why I left, what happened. They knew what happened, and because I'm not shy about it. I'll tell everybody just like I did today. Yeah, I was on drugs. I was a piece of shit. and I'm not going to lie about that. But I don't think they wanted to. Who wants to be a former piece of shit as a leader?
Yeah, but you know what though? But we see it in life all the time. People who, as you described yourself, overcome those obstacles, and people look at them and they want to be around them. I mean, Lamar Odom is a famous player in the NBA who, was married to a Kardashian, made hundreds of millions of dollars. He was addicted to crack. I mean, he was a crack addict, and he was on TMZ, and people love him again. I mean, I mentioned Daryl Strawberry and Doc Gooden. I mean, there's plenty of other people that, dealt with drugs, dealt with, adultery and affairs. And, there's a famous guy, Michael Franzese, who was a mobster. He was involved with all these people that, did horrible things and killed people. People look at him as like a hero now. He just interviewed the son of Sam. So you can't convince me with a straight face that there was nobody in that locker room that would actually want to look to you for advice and be a leader in that locker room. I love Justin Parsley, but I think you could have been a leader alongside Justin Parsley if XCW needed that. And I think XCW clearly needs that. And I'm just surprised that guys, considering all the things that are out there in society, that nobody would have wanted you, because it seems like everybody wants somebody who was down at the bottom and overcame their problems.
Right, but at the same time, it's like you got to talk to that person, and on that specific topic, they got to talk to you about, hey.
Did guys ever talk to you in the locker room about your substance abuse and your issues being in jail? Did younger guys go to you in the locker room and ask you about it?
No, I actually made it known. When they asked why I left or what happened, I just came up front and told them exactly what happened. After that, they just kind of dropped it, and now we got this little joke in the locker room. They're saying, "Why don't you have an EBW shirt?" And I tell them, "Well, because I was on drugs. What's more important, drugs or the shirt?"
So you know what? Can I ask you a question? So if you weren't on drugs, if you'd ever went to jail, do you think you would have stayed in EBW all those years and been like a James Cerebral?
Yeah. I think a lot of things would have been different, but I'm not going to say that I'm proud that I was on drugs, because at the same time, I would have never met my wife. She's never touched a drug in a day in her life, besides a little weed. But I mean, we don't consider.
Well, weed these days, it's funny. Weed these days, I think it's almost like not even cigarettes. People look at weed, it was like 20 years ago when I was a kid. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and if you were smoking weed, it was like smoking crack. Yeah, but now it's like there's, where I am in New York, there's all these like weed dispensaries. There's all these like open places. I mean, as a kid, it was almost like growing up. It was like, it was like a dirty word, although my parents actually smoked marijuana. I remember every Friday night, my parents would close the door and they would smoke weed, and I knew the smell. But, I was always taught, even though growing up, because I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. So it was, Brooklyn, what you see on TV. I didn't grow up in like that part of Brooklyn, but I still grew up in New York City. And I had a somewhat tough upbringing. And, it was like drugs were like, weed was one of the drugs. It was like, okay, don't smoke cigarettes, don't smoke weed, blah, 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 blah. But, but your wife smokes weed, not a big deal. But, okay, so EBW, though, you would have still been EBW, but you don't blame drugs for anything then?
No. I mean, no.
Okay.
I just blame it as God basically had to put me through that.
Do you have any regrets then in your career, your life, or you feel like those things made you who you are and that's why you're back on top?
Exactly. It made me who I am, because you live your life with regrets, it's just going to drag you back down.
I completely agree with you. I think the past is the past. You can't change it. Yeah. I can only go forward.
Yeah, well, there's a reason why the rear view mirror is smaller than the windshield.
Absolutely. But so I guess then at the end of the day, it's XCW's loss.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
They're still a great company, but they need to work on some things that they're looking to overcome EBW.
Well, I don't want you to give it away on what XCW should do, because you're a part of EBW, but I have to go back to your tag team partner. Now, your ex-tag team partner, Julian Void Jacobs. I mean, do you have any regrets on what you did? Because, you guys were in line for a tag team title shot. You guys defeated Brady Branson and James Cerebral. As a matter of fact, you're the one that pinned Brady Branson, and you basically threw that away almost. So anything you want to say to him? Do you have any regrets toward Julian Void Jacobs?
No, all I can say is Sorry, I had to make a Maverick move.
Now, he came out in your match, and he certainly tried to get a piece of you, but didn't seem to work. Do you expect him to try to come back at you again?
Oh yeah, always if you do someone that way, yeah, I expected him to run
He's a
out.
former world heavyweight champion and a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's not going to go down easily.
Right. I don't expect him to. I like a challenge.
You do?
Yeah. Most definitely. I love a challenge.
What would you want to say to him if he was watching and listening right now?
Hey, business is business.
So you would label him permanently as an EBW reject then, right?
Unless he can make his moves, how should I say it? If he should
say whatever you want. You're live on Sportzwire
yeah.
Radio. I got 25 people watching you right now. You can say whatever you want.
Oh yeah. I just don't know how to word it. I'd say if he can prove to Chris Jones, Luke Blaze, and all of us that he's willing to make the sacrifices of doing what it needs to be done to win instead of just playing by the rules all the time. Because he don't do some of the stuff we do.
Would you welcome him in EBW?
Once he proved his worth.
How would you define him proving his worth?
Basically the same way I did it.
Well, you did it at his expense.
Sometimes you got to use people to get up in life. Not necessarily in a bad way, but hey, I appreciate the help for getting me back into EBW. But
not bad to go and do it toward a guy that was a world heavyweight champion and a Hall of Famer, right? I mean, quite a resume builder to go do what you did to, no?
Yeah, he might have the resume, but then again, he didn't take that 10-year-long break like I did and come back and swinging.
So you think that if you didn't take that 10-year break, he wouldn't have the resume that you have, right?
No, I'd probably have a better resume than him.
Oh, really? So basically, what you're telling me is that you would have been a world champion multiple times over. You would have been a tag team champion several times. You would have stayed in EBW. Maybe EBW would have hung around longer. And you would have been a Hall of Fame. Maybe instead of calling XCW Hall of Fame, it'd be the EBW Hall of Fame. So what you're telling me is that if you would have hung around in these 10 years before you came back, or really it's more like 8, but in the 8 years that you left, that you would have certainly far more accomplished what he has accomplished, and you would have basically blew him out of the water.
Most definitely. Not knocking on his skill set whatsoever, because he does got some skills. But
he's got a lot of skills. I've interviewed him. Has a lot. He's a big man. He's very impressive in the ring. He throws his weight around figuratively and literally. James Cerebral found that out. I mean, he's a guy that's, had a lot of success. No question about it. But you bring something else to the table that he doesn't have.
I'm not sure exactly what I'd bring back. I know I'd bring back getting into EBW and leaving him behind, but that's the only thing I can think of. But he might have the same skill set as me, but he's also got more in-ring time, I guess you could say.
Well, because you left not 10, but 8 years you left for.
Yeah. I mean, that's my own doing. All I can do is come back stronger and ready to get back to work.
He's only half the man you are.
Well, I mean, technically, if you want to call it, he might be twice the man for his
weight.
In
terms of total success, think of it this way. I mean, you basically told me that if you would have been around, you would have had far more success than he did. You basically told me that all his accomplishments would have paled into comparison to what you've done, so that from my definition, you basically would be twice what he is, which makes him half the man you would have been.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm willing to take a challenge from him if he wants to do that.
Well, you know what? I'm going to hold off on Mr. Parsley, and I'm going to say this. If I were to tell you that within the next week or so, maybe a little more than that, but certainly before Miano Diaz, that Julian Void Jacobs is coming to Sportswire Radio to respond to what you've said tonight, and to what you did to him in the ring, what would you say to that?
All criticism welcome.
So you welcome that?
Yeah, I'll welcome it. I welcome it all.
Okay. So you're about accountability then. So you
Yeah,
basically want him to respond.
yeah, most definitely. I mean, what would he look like not responding to what I've just said today? He would look like a coward, and
I was going to say exactly the same thing.
that would then also permanently pin him as an EBW reject. You know what I mean? Because if you're not going to respond to someone saying something, then what good are you going to do for EBW?
Okay. All right. Now, if you want to see XCW coverage, you can do that here on the XCW website. You can see all the shows coming up here. Addicted to Chaos is coming up on May the 16th, 2 weeks from today, on the XCW YouTube page. You're going to have more matches announced here. And you can also vote on the clean sweep at Allegiance. You can also see Vortex. We have Rundown coming up tomorrow. We have Ground Zero that just took place. All great stuff here. If you want to see some EBW merchandise, XCW merchandise, you have the shop zone here as we put it up on the link. So if you want to buy some merchandise from your favorite stars, I'm sure there's even stars that are no longer in XCW you can buy merchandise from. You're welcome to do that here and support XCW. It's a fantastic company. We've also put the links below if you want to support XCW. You want to support them on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. So many ways to get in touch and support XCW. I always say it here. Endorsements here on this platform are not given. They are earned. XCW has done that time and time again. We are very excited to have XCW back on Sportswire Radio, and XCW is always going to have a home here because we're about all wrestling matters, and you can get all the Olympics of matches and stuff like that. I got about 20 or 25 more minutes here with the one and only Mitchell Maverick, and Mr. Parsley would like to say one of you wanted allegiance, the other couldn't make a mark when he tried. Never expected to see you at EBW when I discussed you coming on to the show with Tom. Good thing, hashtag all wrestling matters. So Mr. Parsley is basically telling us that, like everybody else, he didn't see this one coming.
Hey, Maverick moves in ways that no one can see.
Basically, it's a way. Never trust a Maverick. A Maverick never always stays the same, right?
Right. Maverick's going to do what a Maverick wants to do.
Do you think then that XCW guys didn't read you as well as they should have?
They could have done a better job, yes. Most definitely. I feel like they seen me as a liability, as you could say, since I took that whole break. And they thought, oh, he's all rusty. He ain't going to be worth anything now. Well, I mean, just goes to show, hey, proved you wrong.
Fair. I understand. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, that certainly makes sense. What did it mean to you to be the XCW New Age champion and one half of the tag team champions in the first run? What did that mean to you in your career?
It's something I definitely wanted to hold on to. But it's sad to say I feel like I could have kept it. But my life choices I got in my own way.
But you're going to make the most of this second run.
Yes.
And you're going to certainly make up for lost time.
Yes, and that's why I'm trying to hit the ground running.
Are you trying to make up for lost time and trying harder than you would have in the first run?
Yes. Because everything else seemed to be more important to me than wrestling was.
Fair. Okay. All right. I can understand that. Justin wants to say, I would have gladly led the charge against EBW with you if you hadn't started our relationship off on the wrong foot coming after our tag titles. You know, you guys in 2023, and I kind of mentioned this earlier on tonight, had feuded with the Essential One, Rob Slater, and also Justin Parsley for those tag team championships. And you guys obviously, well, Julian Void Jacobs was as a therapist, and this whole thing with Mandy, and I'm not going to go down that road, but I mean, shouldn't maybe Justin Parsley and Rob Slater look at it as that, you know what, it's competition. You guys were going for gold, and you will. Now it seems like you really wanted to be in EBW, and maybe they shouldn't be mad. And also, competition is all in fair and love and war. No.
Yeah, just like I've been saying, business is business. And you can't get mad at what happens in business. I mean, you can. I mean, it ain't going to do any good.
So they basically, in that case, then Justin Parsley shouldn't be mad at you, right?
No, he shouldn't be. I mean, you've got gold. Everybody wants gold. Obviously, you're going to have people coming for that. They're going to take their best shot they got at the time.
You guys wanted gold. You wanted something that they had.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, the way I see it, it's just like the way the world is now. If you have something someone else wants, that someone is going to come try and get it. And if you can't defend it, do you really deserve to have it?
So are you telling me then that Justin Parsley and Rob Slater didn't deserve to have those tag team? It's funny you said that because, Omen Black and Soldier GP, they were here on this platform and they were going back and forth with Rob Slater and Justin Parsley. And, they were trying to obviously take those tag team championships from them. And, they were pretty dominant in trying to do so. And they did come up short ultimately at the end. But they had certainly made some of those same statements. So are you telling me then that Parsley and Slater's run really wasn't as impressive as the days in the calendar and XCW's history as it really was?
No, I'm just saying that if they weren't able to defend their title against anybody, basically what I'm saying, if they deserve to keep that title, they should be able to defend it from anybody. Whether it be from IMF or Resurrection, anybody that comes around and wants that title, if they can't defend it from them, do they really deserve to have it as of at that point?
What did you think then about other companies wanting that championship? Obviously, Omen and Soldier were here. You defeated the Midwest Express with Julian Void Jacobs. There was obviously guys from ROEW that came in here. We had JX. We had Jack Delta was here for a while. And, Aaron Blaze. I ain't going to ask you anything on Aaron Blaze. Obviously, I know the whole story there. But the point is that there were outsiders trying to take XCW gold for a while, including those tag team championships, among other titles here. What did you think about that?
All challenges are welcome, and I'm sure Fletch would agree with it. All challenges are welcome. It just gives us a way to test ourselves or prove ourselves worthy for what we have.
Would you like to see more of that?
I would like to see everybody getting more competitive instead of. It seems like some of the matches I've seen, some of them just lay down and take the loss.
Fair play. Justin Parsley. I'm going to pull the website down because I think we got the point. People can go to the XCW pages. I'll pull up some more socials soon. I also still have to give you something, by the way, so hang on tight. Funny, an EBW member has something I want, so I know exactly what you mean. I don't think he's talking about Jackson Law.
No, I don't.
Can I ask you about Jackson Law? Do you consider Jackson Law EBW? What do you consider Jackson Law, other than being lucky? He's also in my Hall of Fame. I don't even know how to label him. He's been on my show on 3, maybe 4 occasions in the past. I mean, so I know Mr. Law very well, and he's kind of the reason why I've covered XCW for as long as I have. And, where do you fall on Jackson Law?
At this point, from what I've seen, a police department reject, I guess you could say. Because he has the moves, but who he's been put up against lately has, like I said before, just laid down. Besides the whole ladder match ordeal, which you're welcome, Jackson.
So does that? Well, I mean, that basically you answered my question. It sounds as if almost that I would have to think that way you sound earlier in the show and later on, and just now that you have something in your sights that is held by somebody not in EBW, but is something that's an EBW championship.
Most definitely. I mean, it's a piece of gold, and to be honest, I like shiny things.
You told us you like money.
Yeah.
It's
all shiny. It all buys things that you need.
Well, speaking of people that have worked in different promotions, and speaking of Resurrection Wrestling, D'Angelo Flame, who is the Resurrection Wrestling Internet Champion, says, might have to call my old tag partner out of retirement. Now, he was a tag team champion once upon a time in Resurrection Wrestling, but obviously those XCW championships are held by members of EBW now, which is Brady Branson and James Cerebral. Now, D'Angelo is obviously an impressive talent, and we'll have to see what the future brings there. Never say never, I suppose.
Yeah. Just like I said, challenges are welcome. Because I'm sure Cerebral and Branson can handle it.
Oh, they can handle a lot of things. I mean, Brady Branson was a world heavyweight champion not too long ago, and James Cerebral bleeds AEW and AEW. He bleeds XCW. My voice, unfortunately, was a little hoarse there at the moment. LaFlame with the fire. We say hello. And speaking of people that were in XCW and held your championship that you held years ago, Anthony Steele says, Angela, maybe you don't have to make a call. Now, he was in XCW. Do you know who Anthony Steele is? Do you know anything about him? Are you heard?
No, I don't know anything about him because I'm sure he's popped up in that last 8 years. That's a lot.
I figured that. That's why I was like, I figured that, you really didn't have any history with him. And, he obviously, when you were gone, he was in XCW. He actually held the New Age Championship like you did. He actually had the same story with you in the New Age title. He actually never lost the New Age Championship. So kind of the irony there that you both held the New Age Championship there. And also another irony is that Jack Delta held the New Age Championship. And maybe I should ask you on that. What was Jack Delta like in the XCW locker room?
I would say very charismatic.
Very charismatic?
Yeah. But Andy it seemed like he would have been a great asset for XCW. If he would, I'm sure he'll come back around or make visits, stop-bys. If he would made his home with XCW, I think they wouldn't be in the whole recession that they're in now.
It's funny you said that because I asked Jack Delta that question 4 months ago when he came on the Sportswire, and I had Chris Jones on right after Jack Delta came on, and kind of ironic that came up and the irony of that. Or what if Jack Delta stayed in XCW, but instead Jack Delta's in VTW right now, and VTW seems to be doing better economically in viewers than XCW is. And I don't know if that's a correlation or not, but there are guys like D'Angelo LaFlame, Anthony Steele, also guys that are big names that have been in other promotions. They've been in IMF, AWL, Resurrection Wrestling, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. And I know I could get in trouble for this, but I might as well just say it, that these are guys that could help with the viewership. And, obviously, we see here Dirty Donnie. And he's also from the IMF. He was obviously in the company once upon a time. So you see those things. So let me ask you then this question, though. Let me ask you, in your career, is there one or two moments that stand out most?
Did one or two moments stand out most?
One or two moments.
Oh. I would say the one that stood out the most to me as of right now, it would be this last show. That's probably one of the biggest standout moments in my career. Because, that just shows anything can fucking happen.
True, and that was definitely nobody saw it coming because you were just on TV with SAT and you guys were shaking hands and everybody was chanting XCW. And then all of a sudden, you pulled a Maverick-like move.
Yeah. Yeah, once you see an opportunity that's open, and if you don't go for that opportunity, then that's your own fault. I'd rather, because just like they say, you miss 100% of every shot you don't take. So I took a shot, and it hit.
Oh, you definitely shot and scored. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. Okay, I have something I want to give you because obviously we're getting toward, some of the remaining minutes in the show. We're here with Mr. Mitchell Maverick, the Riot of not only XCW, but now EBW. He is the newest member of EBW. You can check out XCW in all these social media channels, and we'll have more XCW coverage as a reminder coming up here 2 weeks from tomorrow as Miano Diaz, your teammate in EBW, is going to be here. He is the XCW heavyweight champion of the world. He's going to be here 8 o'clock on May the 17th, and Julian Voigt Jacobs, your old teammate, your old tag team partner, is going to be here, and I'm going to tell you the date very soon. It'll be announced later in the week. It'll be later this week, and we'll announce it. So I hope you tune in. I'm sure that one you're going to definitely be very, very, very listening with intense. I am sure euphemisms there, but I want to give you something because I promised you I'd give you something. So I can certainly give this to you for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio. So only if you'd like me to insist, I will give it to you.
You know, I insist you give it to me. I love it.
Well, I think you'll like this one because, some people say, well, everybody goes into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. Everybody says, everybody gets their own day. But I actually went a little different here because you obviously made such an impact. You obviously are such a maverick here, and everything you've done at XCW now as a part of EBW once again. I am officially calling you, my friend, the Riot of Sportswire Radio, because you are such a riot for what you've done in the ring, being undefeated in the 2024 calendar year. And I couldn't think of a better way to kick off coverage again of XCW by saying that you are the Maverick. You are a riot of Sportswire Radio. And I hope that you'll enjoy this gift. I know it quite won't be like the money that you want or the gold that you've talked about, the shiny gold, but I wanted to officially make it known here that you are forever known as the Riot of Sportswire Radio. So congratulations, Mr. I know it's not quite the gold you're looking for, the money that you've been given to join EBW, but I hope that you'll take my token of appreciation.
I love it. And, I couldn't be more appreciative of this token. I look at this just like I would a tag team title or a heavyweight title.
I appreciate that because I've noticed a lot of guys that get something on Sportswire, and I'm noticing it more and more, actually either tag me or they put the kind of the frame of this on their walls and it's in their background. So I really appreciate that very much here. And I've got more people that want to say hello. I want to say hello to our very good friends out there in the great state of North Carolina, where Jack Delta is right now a home of. That is VTW versus the World Wrestling. They have a show coming up here, I believe, this Sunday. I hope people tune in. It'll be 7 o'clock Eastern time on their YouTube channel. I hope you check it out. Please support them. They have a great group of talent. I mean, the roster that's as good as anybody's out there, along with XCW's. Please support VTW versus the World Wrestling. And many of our friends of Sportswire Radio are in VTW. So I want to say hello to them. And I love watching their product just as much as I love watching XCW. Speaking of champions from Resurrection Wrestling, you mentioned their name, and it seems like you got them to come out. That is the Resurrection Wrestling National Champion. He is the longest national champion in history. His name is Drake Golddragon. He says, "What's up?" Also, hope you say hello to Mr. Maverick here. And Justin Parsley would like to say lots of talent here for sure. Okay, yep, definitely lots of talent. And we have a lot of things I'm sure to talk about in the future, no doubt, with XCW coverage. As a reminder, XCW, Miano Diaz, the world champion of this company, is here May 17th, 2 weeks from tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern time. And also Julian Void Jacobs will respond to you and some. Okay, so you know what? I want to ask you this question. What do you want to say directly to all of your new members of EBW that you've just joined? What do you want to say to all the guys now? Your first official words to them?
That I'm glad to be back home and that you're not going to be disappointed in what I have to show.
Good words. Good words. Conversely, what do you want to say to everybody in the XCW locker room that you just bid farewell to?
Get your shit together.
Well, wouldn't you want them not to get their act together? Because wouldn't that mean that you can be more successful?
Well, they're not a challenge right now. I want a challenge.
You sure you want a challenge?
Well, why not? Oh, we're always looking to better ourselves.
But don't you just want to win and just, have it all to yourselves?
I don't know. Maybe it's just a Maverick in me, but I like a challenge.
Okay, so let me ask you then. Do you see Hunter Halkin as the one hope for XCW?
As long as he's got Corey Lee behind him, I think Corey Lee might be holding him down a little bit. Their whole little dominatrix thing they got going on.
But that match that he had tonight with Chris Jones was a match that I hope people go out and watch at XC Wrestling 1, because that was, one of the better matches of 2024. That was
right.
In fact, it was such a good match that Chris Jones even put his hand out to shake Hunter Halkin's hand. What did you think of that watching in the back? That Chris Jones shook his hand. He extended his hand almost in a sign of respect to Hunter Halkin. What did you make of that tonight?
I mean, if he deserved the respect from Chris Jones, so be it. That to me shows that, hey, there might be a possibility of Hunter coming to EBW.
And you'd obviously want his talent and his ability, right?
Yeah, I mean, if he can drop the whole Corey Lee, he could probably come here.
And Corey Lee's obviously, for those that don't remember, is the man that saved XCW, even though he wants no part of saving XCW, but you still have a long memory, no?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe he might say he doesn't want to save ED or XCW, but it sure seems like he's trying to.
Is Fletch the problem in XCW right now?
No, I don't think he's the problem. I think it's
his company though, right? And the company's failing.
I mean, ultimately it might be his problem, but at the same time, it might just be getting too many people coming in that have no experience or anything like
Venom,
that.
I mean, Brogan O'Shea hooted and hollered about Venom. Venom's out. We got Milo Malice instead. We've seen what's happened there. I mean, we've talked about, you mentioned Hunter Halkin. He's still got Corey Lee. That don't seem like he could be a guy from what you're telling me that could fight for XCW. ACT's now basically gone in the reverse. You've been undefeated this calendar year. ACT seems like, other than the Chris Jones match, he got 2 wins this year in 2024. He's basically now kind of the reverse. He's the Heath Slater now of XCW in 2024. I mean, I don't see anybody at the moment. I mean, Parsley and Slater lost the tag titles. I mean, XCW doesn't want him. You don't want him. I mean, it seems like there's nobody right now in XCW that could lead the charge. And shouldn't the buck stop them with the man that certainly was his company as the owner and founder and creator is Fletch? So shouldn't the buck stop with Fletch? And, he's failing right now in his job, right? Shouldn't that be a fair question to ask?
I think it'd be all their faults because they need to band together.
Just like in sports, when you change the coach or you change the owner, he's the guy at the top.
Yeah, I mean, you could change a coach and change an owner, but that don't change the team.
Sometimes it gives them a spark, though. In sports, we see it all the time. You get a spark. I've seen it.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny that at all. But at the same time, I feel like XCW's all not on the same page. I don't even think they're in the same book. They're not reading the book at all. They're just trying to, instead of working together and figuring out how to take us down, which I don't think they'll ever do at all.
So XCW then should just be folded into EBW, almost like how WCW folded into WWF once upon a time. Is that what you're telling me?
Hey, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but EBW only needs the best.
It seems like Fletch isn't recruiting the best, though, right now. It seems like Fletch isn't doing his job in his position. It seems like EBW, you guys are united. You guys just clean swept XCW and embarrassed them. I've never seen a 5-on-5 elimination match like that before.
I mean,
you said you've never seen it either.
No, I have not. It was a different feeling of it being a clean sweep. Like it was like we accomplished something that was big.
Did you guys have champagne afterwards? You went to the locker room and doused everybody with champagne for that moment.
Pop the cork and shake it up real quick. Yeah.
Now, there's one man that I've left out before we say sayonara. That there was one, you told me Hunter Halkin still got Corey Lee lurking, right? So maybe he's not the white horse. Maybe he's not the savior, right? But there was one man that did come out, though, and he's had some issues with EBW. And I think I'm talking about next. Could he be the guy that's a possible savior? We know that Fletch, obviously, he ain't doing his job, it seems, right? We know Hunter Halkin still got Corey Lee lurking, and you don't trust him for a second. But Onyx was the man that came out, and he showed some fire. He showed some charge, and he came prepared, and he came with some weapons. Is Onyx the guy that you might say, you know what? He's the guy that can make this interesting. And he's got a lot of history with Luke Blaze. And he's, I'm sure, got some unfinished business. And you want to talk about Onyx? I'm sure that's the one man, just maybe, that could give you some competition.
Oh, he seems like he's got the fire to bring that locker room together. I mean, especially since his old little chair shot to Miano. But
He's got set
that's
sight
just,
on gold.
yeah. I mean, a little chair shot ain't nothing to the EBW people. I mean, I'd be more than happy to go on a no DQ match with Onyx.
So are you telling me that you want a match with Onyx right now live on Sportswire Radio? You want a match with him?
I would love a no disqualification match with Onyx.
Do you want that with the EBW referee, though?
I'll do it with no referee. What do you mean?
Well, you got to have somebody to count, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, we can have the crowd count for us.
Has anybody out there ever seen a match where the crowd counts? I mean, there's some shows where like the wrestlers will do the count themselves, but I'd be curious if there's a crowd would do that. But I don't think they even did that in the Thunderdome when WWE had the no crowd, but they had the Thunderdome only. But okay, so you want a match though with Onyx? You don't want Julian Void Jacobs instead. You want Onyx?
I'll take them both.
Okay. Okay.
I would be happy to do a no DQ match with Onyx and Void as a triple threat.
Well, I've got Julian Void Jacobs coming up to Sportswire Radio, and I'll ask Mr. Jacobs about these questions. But basically, does Onyx he give XCW a chance or no?
Against us, no, but he gives them hope. He gives XCW hope, I guess.
You guys have to still be. You guys can't be happy about that tonight. He ruined us. He did ruin the celebration.
I mean, who would be happy with taking a chair shot? But that's just a little.
He took down the world heavyweight champion.
Yeah, it's just a little minor inconvenience, a little bump in the road.
And Luke Blaze, I know he's got a long memory toward Luke Blaze.
Yeah. Well. Maybe I can just snuff his fire out.
So Onyx is a man that's on your radar.
All of them are. Why not just take them all out one at a time? Or all at a time? Who cares? Either way works for me.
Okay. So basically, it doesn't matter. You want them all.
Yeah.
Fair.
Show what XCW what they were really missing and why I say jump ship to go to EBW. Well, why not just...
Although you said that you always wanted to go to EBW.
Oh, yeah.
He going home tonight. That's what I learned.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I started out. That's where I grew up. I mean, starting out with the Gabe as the manager.
That's certainly going back down in the memory lane here. And,
yeah.
Anthony Steele wanted to also say he was undefeated on main shows, and maybe you'll see Anthony Steele on another show on Sportswire very soon. But I obviously know you don't have any history with him, and I'm actually going to get going here soon because we've obviously spoke about a lot. You want to go celebrate with your EBW teammates, and I want to announce here because I have one more announcement for you that maybe in the next few weeks you come back onto Sportswire Radio, I might have an EBW show. What do you think about that?
Oh, I would love to see you wear that because that
you might. You know what?
That real one shirt don't look right on you.
So you think that this one is past? It's past tense. It's almost like it should be deactivated. To quote the Arizona Coyotes hockey team, they're now deactivated from the NHL. You trying to tell me that this shirt should be deactivated because the real ones lost the tag team titles, and I should put an EBW shirt on? I should activate an EBW shirt to help EBW because they're the ones on top right now, basically? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm surprised you ain't got one yet.
Well, here's my answer to that. I have so many wrestling shirts. You're going to probably chuckle at this. I feel like every day I come onto sports where I go outside, the only thing that's literally in my wardrobe or closet these words. And every time I come onto this platform, it's almost like I have to put my work uniform on because I have literally at this point, I have about like 50. No joke. I literally have like 50 wrestling shirts. I have wrestling shirts that it's like, I don't even know which one I should put on. As a matter of fact, you're going to laugh. I have a wedding to go to on Saturday. My mother is, quote unquote, getting remarried again. And I'm not that thrilled about it, to be honest. I'm not going to say too much about that on the air. God forbid somebody says, oh, I heard you say that. Because I've said a lot of things on this platform recently that's gotten me in trouble for sure. but I actually want to go and wear a wrestling shirt. So maybe I'll wear an XCW shirt, but only for temporary. Then next time you come on the platform, I'll have an EBW shirt on because I don't have an EBW shirt because I got too many shirts. I got to be honest with you.
I'm just surprised nobody sent you one already.
Well, I mean, Fletch hasn't sent me one. Yeah, I mean, Fletch should send me something, but he hasn't. But that's okay. Listen, we're not going to go down that road. Listen, we're happy to have Sportswire XCW coverage. We're going to leave it at that. But I look, some wrestlers send me packages. Others, I go out and support the cause. Like in XCW, I have supported the cause, but not going to go down that road. We're going to I think we're going to, obviously walk some of that back. But I promise you, when we have maybe Mr. Diaz come on, because he's coming on in 2 weeks, I'll have an EBW shirt on. How about that? How does that sound?
That sounds like you should have it sooner.
Well, if I buy the shirt this weekend, realistically, it'll take me about a week.
Man, I got my shirt in about 3 days.
When I bought the Parsley shirt and the Jack Delta shirt, I got them in about a week.
Oh,
remember, I'm in New York. I don't know where they're shipping from, but it took me about a week to get mine.
I mean, yeah, I guess you could say. I was gonna say I got mine in 3 days, but hey, the sooner you get it, the better off you'll be.
Well, we'll find out on May 17th. How about that?
Yeah.
But we've had a lot of fun tonight. Mitchell Maverick has definitely shown why he's a riot, and also one of the very few people right now in this sport right now, in the yard or underground, that is undefeated in the calendar year. A very unique stat. And he's also defeated the likes of Unholy. By the way, they're not even a team anymore. I mean, one of the guys isn't even in the company anymore. The other guy is a different name. He's defeated the Midwest Express from the IMF. We're not even going to go there. Jason Myers and, for Jordan Netz, the former world heavyweight champion in the IMF. Shout out to the IMF guys. We're not even going to mention the fact that he's defeated Brady Branson and Jabe Cerrillo because he's teammates to them now. We're not even going to bring up the fact that he's defeated ACT and SAT. So he basically aced the ACT and the SATs in a span of a month. And he's going to, I'm sure, defeat Julian Void Jacobs or Onyx, or maybe both, because he's declared he wants them both in a ring in a no DQ triple threat match. I'm going to ask Julian Void Jacobs those very questions. I have no doubt when he comes on the platform here in less than 2 weeks. But I know you're a busy man. You want to go celebrate with the EBW boys. You want to go maybe get some partying done, some last minute partying, maybe get a couple of brewskis in there, maybe see, what the missus wants to do in the celebration. That's why I'm going to give you the floor here, my friend, and give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say, I turn it over to you. You have certainly proven why you are a Maverick, and also as officially, I'm going to put it one more time on the screen, the Riot of Sportswire Radio. So I turn it over to you, my friend, and fire away.
Well, I just hope everybody's having a good night, and I know from my little Mavericks, my kids, and the Mrs. Maverick, that we all wish you guys a happy and good, easy night. Don't get in trouble. Don't do drugs.
May the 4th be with you. May 4th is Saturday. May the 4th be with you. And Cinco de Mayo,
Yeah. And remember, don't do drugs.
You'll probably chuckle at this. I've actually never once in my life ever smoked or drank.
Well, I commend you for that.
But I will say as a joke, as a follow-up, all I do is drink this, though.
Hey, I believe everybody in the United States drinks that.
Well, I'm tired all the time. I literally yesterday my night didn't end till about 4:00 in the morning, which is why my voice is not too good right now. That stuff maybe I'll tell you about off the air, because I did a show yesterday with an individual named Xavier Thorne, and I had people calling me from outside of all over the woodworks basically came out. And why did I have this wrestler on? But I thankfully, was able to handle that. And obviously we love Mr. Thorne, but I love you just as much because you're my Riot of Sportswire Radio. So I want you to go enjoy the rest of your evening with the missus and the kids. The little Mavericks need you. Obviously, you're going to show why you're better than the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks are up 3-2. You're going to show why you're clean sweeps in 2024 in tag and singles action and get your way back to gold and reclaim where you were nearly 10 years ago. My friend, congratulations on the huge victory. Congratulations on being the newest member of the EBW group, and I look forward to more coverage with Mr. Diaz, your teammate, on May 17th, and I look forward to more success, and I look forward to bringing you back on Sportswire Radio here maybe in the next few weeks. We'll see what happens after what Jacobs and Diaz have to say, and maybe we'll do a round 2 of this maybe sometime later in the month of June as we get ready for Summer Mania.
I'm looking forward to it. It's always
Me
nice to get on the air with you.
I love it. I think you did a great job, and I'm looking forward to more coverage with you. And thank you to Justin Parsley for organizing that. Thank you to Mr. Anthony Steele, who I promise you, Anthony Steele, you're going to be back on Sportswire Radio this weekend. I unfortunately am a little tired right now at the moment, so I want to say thank you for tuning in. Also, thank you to all of my listeners out there. Thank you to our good people of XCW. Obviously, Fletch, big shout out to him. And also make sure you support XCW and all those great platforms. We put the YouTube page up earlier tonight. Also, we put up the XCW website where you can buy some merchandise. I'm going to be buying my EBW shirt this weekend. Make sure I support the EBW. I want today before the EBW. Whoever does that EBW certainly knows that they're doing something that obviously gets people's attentions. But obviously, we were here with Mitchell the Riot Maverick. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. I'm going to be back here tomorrow, 10 o'clock Eastern time, to give you the fallout from SmackDown, the week that was in AEW. Do they even have a company left? Talking about what's going on, get you ready for Backlash, WWE, who knows, whatever else and more. But tune in here on all of our platforms, especially YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, and on SportsWireRadio.org via the Listen Live button. If you're on SportsWireRadio.org, you're going back to Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer and Jingles until I re-put the podcast and the live dial back up. If you're on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, I'll see everybody 10 o'clock tomorrow. And until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the number one, the global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters. Remember, together we will win. And shout outs to XCW, because remember, XCW is the gold standard of this sport of wrestling. And XCW is the company, as I always say, has earned our endorsement here. And we don't give them, we earn it. And XCW has done that. Can't wait for more coverage of XCW. Thank you, everybody, and good night.